Good morning. We arrive at the fourth Sunday of Advent, getting closer and closer to the celebration of God's coming in the flesh on Christmas, which will be later this week. Don't forget. And you can come and join us either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. But for this service, we still are looking to and thinking about the promises of God. And they're in all the wrong places, about all the wrong people, about all of the wrong kinds of circumstances. It certainly isn't the way we would do things. So God is operating in a fashion that doesn't fit our normal expectations. And so we're celebrating the oddities of God, and going to have some fun with that kind of celebration. So, take a moment to say good morning to each other. Our gospel lesson today probably deserves a bit of the background. Preceding this section in the first chapter, Zechariah had been in the temple. Zechariah was one of the priests, a nice, holy person, and God promises him in his old age that he and his wife are going to have a child, which he can't believe. It just won't work. They're too old for that to happen. And so the angel Gabriel says, well, since you won't believe that, your mouth is going to be shut. You won't be able to say anything until the child is born. So Zechariah has to leave the temple. He was supposed to be leading the prayers. Has to leave the temple in silence and can't say anything to anyone. And his wife is Elizabeth, who then does become pregnant. And 6 months later, Mary, who has in the meantime been greeted by the angel Gabriel likewise and said that she was going to have a child, she goes to see Elizabeth. And so that was our gospel lesson for today. But if you would take this story out of the Bible and put it into just a piece of literature, I think it wouldn't get printed. I think it would be laughed at. I would think people would say, this is just too ridiculous to believe. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, after all, here's a story about a nice, pious old man, and he gets shut up, and his old wife gets pregnant. Yeah, right. And then Mary, as far as we know, girls were married off in early puberty, so estimates are that she's somewhere between 12 and 16. And without having a husband, she's pregnant. Yeah, right. Can you imagine what her parents said to her? And think with me for a moment. Here is God going to show up on earth in human fashion, and he starts with Mary. If you or I had to adopt a child out, one of ours, if we went to an adoption agency, would we ever allow that adoption agency to give our child to a 12 to 16-year-old girl? I don't think the law even allows it, particularly when there is no husband around and perhaps no way of supporting this child who is coming. And it seems then that one could look at this and say, if that's God, he's a bit wacky. Is this not sort of just off the wall ridiculous? So why? why would God do something so foolish? Perhaps some of you may have read some of those editions of children's letters to God. And they go something like, God, are you real? Or is this invisibility just a trick? Signed, Lawrence. Those letters give us a good idea of what's in our Advent hearts. God, are you real? We're involved in economy that just doesn't seem to want to get fixed. We're involved in wars that we can't seem to solve. We're involved in global warming, and we can't get the nations to agree enough on doing anything about it. We seem to be set on a path of mutual self-destruction. God, where are you? Are you home? Is there anybody there? Or are prayers just going off into space somewhere? And what about all of those diseases and afflictions that plague our lives? What about we long, like the children, to know, God, are you real? Does something somewhere work? And in a dark time of year, we can feel like we are sort of all alone, stuck out here, ready to just hide.